This is America's Workforce, the voice of working families in Northern Ohio. One solid hour of fact-finding features, in-depth interviews, informative news segments, and practical consumer reports. Tune in now and every weekday afternoon from 4 to 5 as we stand up for you, your family, and our community. Now, here's your host, Ed Flash Barrett.
Okay, two featured guests joining us on the broadcast today. Our first is a sponsor, and that's Jimmy Williams, who's the International Union Painters and Allied Trades General President. And recently, Jimmy sent a letter to the Honorable Martin O'Malley, Governor of Maryland, and he was complaining about a couple of things. First of all, the lack of action by governors and Congress when it comes to creating jobs. He said in a letter that they are going to not take part, rather, in the Democratic National Convention next year. You know why? Because it's being held in North Carolina, which is the least unionized state in America. So I wonder, why are the Democrats picking such a non-union area to have a convention? We'll talk about the American Jobs Act, what that will do, and also what's going on Capitol Hill, what's really not going on Capitol Hill. Eric Cantor, I don't know if you caught this, he is I believe, the House Republican Majority Leader. He told the country this week, 2 days ago, that the American Jobs Act is dead on arrival. It's not even going to get any debate. Can you believe that? Look at unemployment in this country. How many people are struggling? The protests in Wall Street, I'll get to that in a minute. People are frustrated, fed up, and they're not even going to debate this? Go to line number one. Welcome one of our regulars, good guy, Mr. Jimmy Williams, General President of the Painters and Allied Trades. Jimmy, good afternoon. Welcome back to America's Workforce here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Good afternoon, Flash.
How you doing?
Well, doing real good after that Phillies victory last night.
You know what? I didn't cover we're not a National League town, so I didn't even bother with the National League. But you are a Phillies fan, aren't you?
Yeah, and I really appreciate you sending us Cliff Lee a few years ago.
And you have our manager, too, Charlie Manuel.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for him, too. He's done a great job.
Anything we can do to build other teams. we do a pretty good job of that. Well, let's talk about Martin O'Malley. Now, Martin O'Malley is the governor of Maryland and chair of the Democratic Governors Association, and I understand you recently wrote him a letter, and I guess you got right to the point. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, it's unusual that a governor will give you as much time as Martin did, but he's really a super guy. And head of the DGA, we've been a big supporter of the DGA. And he called me up and he just asked me what was going on. And I said, look, I'll be frank with you. I'll tell you. He said, Jimmy, could you do me a favor and put it in a white paper and send it to me? So I kind of put my, thoughts together, sent him a paper, and he called me back. And we talked for more than an hour on the phone. And I think that the governor, asked me if he could take it, to higher ups at the White House, so that they would know the sentiment of where our members are. And, he did, and it's gotten a little bit of a stir in the Democratic Party. And quite honestly, I think they needed it, and I think that right now the president is, kind of stirring things up, on the campaign trail. And it has to be the campaign trail because they've made it a campaign. It's a shame, but, they're not feeling the pain of our unemployment, which is 9%, but it's about 24% in construction across the country. So I hope they understood, it was meant, in pure honesty that it's going to be hard to motivate our members. And just saying, well, what's the alternative is not the answer.
Yeah. Now he's been a pretty labor-friendly governor, hasn't he?
He's I think he's the number one governor in the country in job creation. Whether it be the Times or he just lucked into it, but he's done a real good job for us in Maryland. He was at my grand opening. We bought about 300 jobs from Washington, D.C. to Hanover, Maryland last year, and he was very helpful in putting that together for us. And we relocated our national headquarters there to Hanover, and he worked with us. His administration worked with us. So he has reached out to not only us, the United Association moved from Washington, D.C., too.
Mm-hmm. So how much clout does he have with the national Democrats?
Well, I think he's a real politician, and when I say that, there's people that know it, and he knows the feel of the voter. And when I spoke to him, at his recent election, he understood, because I come from a ward and division politics town of Philadelphia, and he has that feel because Baltimore's similar. And I mean, he was the mayor of Baltimore, and he's the governor, and I think he has aspirations, but quite honestly, I think he really understands what's going on, and he's trying to fix things. So quite honestly, he leads the DGA, and he was frank. He told me that there was times when he told the president, quite honestly, he said, "You got the majority now." That was a few years ago in the governors, but you might not have them, and it came true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, we lost our governor of Ohio. You know what I mean? And look what it's done for the people in Ohio.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there's a bitter campaign going on right now with issue 2. Getting back to what you wrote in that letter, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, and I didn't even realize that the Democratic National Convention is going to be in North Carolina, and you took them to task for that because here they have it in the least unionized state in America.
On top of that, they're having it on Labor Day.
On Labor Day.
Now, if I was a Republican politician, I know what I would do. I would get as many friendly labor people, have events throughout Labor Day with whoever the Republican candidate is, and they'll find them, okay, and just, kind of counter what was going on there in North Carolina. Now, this was the ridiculousness of that site, but the real problem was they never consulted us. And I ain't saying that we're the decision maker, but, I mean, we spent $750,000 at the last Democratic convention. So did the IBEW, and I think the IBEW and myself, we're all boycotting it to a degree, but it'll be the first Democratic convention we both won't make in over 100 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, you always look at your base, and
yeah.
I guess you could say Labor's the Democratic Party's base, and at least consult them, at least, try to make a decision, but, at least unionized state. If we wanted to stay in a hotel, we couldn't find a unionized hotel. Now, granted, that's our problem, and we got to work to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they worked with us in Denver, the last convention, and the convention before in LA, and the convention before. I mean, this isn't something new. So I really think that they made a tactical error in kind of leaving us out of the mix there.
Yeah, well, they've taken labor for granted so many times. Jimmy, let me ask you this. Have you heard from other unions? Are they going to boycott the convention as well?
Oh, yeah, no. This was a discussion at our National Building Trades meeting, and it's been a discussion at the AFL-CIO Executive Council meeting, too. Now, this really upset a lot of people. I don't think that I don't think you're going to see the labor presence there. I know, my organization, I'm going to dump the money that we would have spent in some of these local battles, and kind of stash it away. I mean, for 4 years, we kind of allocate a billable unit of our per capita for events like this, and what we got with issue 2 in Ohio, and as I spoke the last time I was on the show, we're gonna really pump up our numbers there in Ohio because we know how important that is, and send more people in instead of sending them to the Democratic convention.
Yeah. I know you're good friends with Joe Biden. Did you talk to him about this? Yes,
we did, and the vice president, quite honestly understands, and I hope that and I've seen it turn around with the president as far as these sites he's making, and some of these politicians stay in, stay out. I mean, you know what he did in Ohio with his visit down there by the in Cincinnati, on the border between Cincinnati and Kentucky, on that bridge.
Right.
So, I mean, and right now I think he was just out in Texas, and he was told to stay away from there. So, I mean, he's hitting the spot. I think he's got, I think he understands he's in a battle. I mean, yesterday he said that he's the underdog. I don't think he's the underdog because the candidates that the Republican Party are mounting is not that great. And their Governor Christie decided not to run, yesterday not to get into the race. So it's the cast of characters they have now, and I don't think they can decide the Republicans what's going on.
Yeah, they seem to be doing a pretty good job of keeping their foot in their mouth, but that's a whole other story. Jimmy, I have to take a break. When we come back, you want to talk about Obama's Jobs Act?
You got it.
Okay, we'll do that, and also the reaction from Eric Cantor. It's all on America's Workforce. Plus, we have Jeff Kidder, who is an author and a sociologist, talking about those bicycle messengers riding around Cleveland and all America. All on America's Workforce, Labor Radio, 1490 WERE. Back in a few. Clear skies tonight, 47 overnight low, sunshine, and a high of 70 tomorrow. Let's go back to line number one, Jimmy Williams, who's general president of the Painters and Allied Trades, IUPAT.org. That's the website. They represent protective and decorative coatings applicators, wall covers, drywall finishers, painters, decorators, scenic artists, designers, civil service workers, shipyard workers, maintenance workers, building cleaners, metal polishers, public employees, clerical workers. Man, the list goes on and on and on. Jimmy, how many members nationwide?
Well, we've had a loss in membership over this last 2 years. We dropped about 10,000 members. We're down to 130,000.
130,000. What were you at your peak?
At our peak, many years ago, we were 250,000. But like everything else, we've had our declines. But we were holding steady up until the 2008. Kind of debacle with the stock market and jobs. So over the last, 3 years, really, we've lost about 10,000 people.
Yeah, boy, that thing is really getting attention. Have you been monitoring this Occupy Wall Street situation?
Yeah, and the whole thing really hinges on it because it's your pensions. Okay, it's the corporate greed from the CEOs, and the poor working guy. He don't get a break. And I know earlier you were on your show. I heard the thing you were running between Obama and President Reagan,
mm-hmm.
and they kind of just it was amazing the atmosphere back then. He was very popular, and he's the most popular Republican president. But the two speeches basically mirror one another.
Yeah. Do you realize, if Reagan were alive today, I mean, he'd be thrown out. They'd call him a Democrat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's it's the whole profile of the party has changed so much. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and a good example. This segues in perfectly to Eric Cantor. Now, Eric Cantor, what is he, the majority leader?
Majority leader in the House.
Okay, now, Obama comes out with this American Jobs Act. I mean, it's getting he's doing a great job going around trying to sell it to people. And here comes Eric Cantor saying it's what, dead on arrival?
Yeah, and he will not pass the bill in its entirety. Okay, so I guess he gave that a lot of thought. I mean, he said that immediately. And it's like he's negotiating, the futures and the employment of the American people. And it's going to be a situation where, this Jobs Act, if passed, improves our roads, our airports. It hits the schools. One of the things that is the most interesting is the infrastructure bank that's proposed, that we could take some of our pension money instead of losing it and going to Wall Street, which we've done. It's so volatile there. We could turn around and build in a long range real estate projects that's going to help put people back to work and also help our pension funds. So to basically look at all of the proposals in it. I mean, they have proposals in it for small business, tax incentives for veterans, for people that hire veterans coming back from the war that we're in. I mean, there's so many real things that would be a real possibility. It's a broad bill, but it's not just putting construction workers back to work. It's high-speed internet. I mean, there's a whole lot in there. And they're going to negotiate this with Cantor, and I'll tell you, it's disgusting. I said to my members the other day in an article I wrote, I said, I wish I could make a motion, have it seconded, and put everybody back to work. I can't. But who can do that? Congress.
Yeah.
Congress can do that. They can pass the bill and help put people back to work. But instead, they're going to play politics with it.
Yeah, well, Cantor said he doesn't want the whole bill. I mean, what part doesn't he like? Do you know?
Well, that's what, I kind of went through the bill. He don't want to modernize schools, I guess. He don't want to put teachers back to work. All right.
Yeah.
He don't want to fix the airports or the roads. So I mean, give me the part. He don't want tax incentives for small business. He don't want to take care of the veterans. Be specific and say, I don't want to take care of this.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to take care of that. Don't just say, I'm not going to pass it in its entirety and we'll pass parts of the bill. That in my mind is just, ludicrous. Because I'm looking at the bill, as we talk, and I'm trying to figure out what wouldn't he like in this.
I'm wondering, because of all this stuff about the deficit, isn't this supposed to be like revenue neutral? Because aren't they going to take close some tax loopholes and things like that with this? Well,
that was the intent, and that is the intent. And basically, I think that's where the battle is. Their position has always been, as far as taxes are concerned, that they're not interested in raising taxes, but they're also not interested in cutting any loopholes in taxes. And as I don't want to be redundant on that radio ad that you had with Reagan and Obama, but I mean, this has been going on for a number of years. This is something new. Cantor hasn't invented it. Boehner hasn't invented it. Obama hasn't invented it. This is Washington, D.C., and this is what happens in the halls of Congress. And it's about time that the people start hearing. I think that's what the president's trying to do. Right? I think he's trying to get that message out to the people, and hopefully they'll understand and they'll continue with pass this bill now and pass it in its entirety.
Yeah. Well, I guess the part where it talks about rehabilitating homes, businesses, and communities, and the bridges, as far as any road and construction that's involved, all of that would be covered by Davis-Bacon prevailing wage protections. They probably have an issue with that, don't you think?
Well, they probably do, but quite honestly, Davis-Bacon is not in every single county in the country. It might be in your major metropolitan areas where there's union, density, but quite honestly, it's not out in South Dakota. Okay, it's not out in North Dakota. So to take that position, I once did a survey. There's many counties in the state of Ohio that where the prevailing wage is not the union wage. The Davis-Bacon wage is not the union wage. Okay, and the Davis-Bacon Act was basically put together by Republicans.
I know. Okay, the National Infrastructure Bank, you touched on that. Why don't you explain to our listeners what that actually is? Because I think there's probably a lot of confusion on that.
Well, the National Infrastructure Bank, it would give investors a chance to take their pension money right now that's sitting in the stock market. I think yesterday we were down a couple hundred points. We're up 100 points the day before, down another 400 points. And right now our pension funds are probably running at either a -1% or 2% when we take our investments. You know what my best investment is right now? Real estate. Now we took our hit on real estate, when real estate went down in August of 2008, all right, and it declined. So we wrote off all those, real estate investments we had. Yeah. Well, now they're starting to climb. And my real estate portfolio this year will return 8%. Stock market's probably going to be a -3%. So, when you start investing money, you have to look at that because our pensions are amortized at a 7.5% return. And right now I'm hitting that bogey with my real estate, but I'm running out of real estate, investments. And then there's also the chance that, some of the, you can't be overweighted in real estate when you're investing your pension money. So it gives me another alternative way, and it'll be backed by the government, which is a good investment. And, it'll actually move some of the construction and some of the projects that need to put America back to work. So, I mean, I'm excited about that purely for the fact of, I'm not too happy with what's going on in the market. And, now that it's global, something happens over in Greece, and all of a sudden our market drops 500 points.
Yeah. And you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah. Nothing's happened. I mean, it's so, I'm really excited about the infrastructure bank. But maybe that's what Cantor don't like. I don't know. I'm gonna, I hope the president and I hope that the Senate and Congress asks them, And I hope the American people understand it because, the fact sheet is real simple. It touches on 6 points, and the points that it touches on is, like I said, the roads, the rails, the airports, schools, putting teachers back to work, infrastructure, tax credits for small business, veterans, rebuilding the houses, and expanding the high speed. Now, all right, now tell me which one of them things you're not for.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's pretty difficult. I got a note here from the AFL-CIO. This is posted on the national website, too, regarding the bridges. They did a great job. If you go to the AFL-CIO.org website, it'll pop right up, and it shows in each state what needs work. I clicked on Ohio. In Ohio, 2,743 bridges are deficient. More than 11.1 million vehicles cross those bridges every day. Every day. So, it's not just, we're doing this for the sake of the jobless. We need to do it because the bridges are not safe. And nationwide, there's about 70,000 bridges that are in the same category. They're deficient and they need work. And, everybody needs work. I mean, what a great opportunity to use the Obama's Jobs Act here to jumpstart the economy, put people back to work. And obviously it would help the painters and allied trades, right?
Well, not only us, but, history has a tendency to repeat itself. Our last Great Depression with President Roosevelt, that's when we started all the interstates.
Yep.
And that's what that's what pulled us out of that depression. And if you were to read history and read what happened then, it's quite obvious. People were going back to work. They were paying taxes. We were fixing our infrastructure. Right now, that infrastructure is deteriorating. And the first place that a state will go is they won't spend the money on the roads. They won't spend the money. And then they've also taken some of, our throughways and our turnpikes, and they've basically sold them. And they're being owned now by overseas, investors. So the profitable roads, the Garden State Parkway in New Jersey, the Ohio Turnpike, and the Chicago Thruway, they're all being sold. And that's the real scary part, because they were the turnpikes and the roads were the things that were basically turning a profit.
Mm-hmm.
And now we don't have that, and they're not going to fix the interstates, which are toll free, but they're not going to fix them. So we got, it's just amazing. I think that would be a real solution, not just for the painters, because, yes, we paint the bridges, but quite honestly, a lot of the road work is done by, the carpenters and the laborers and the concrete, cement finishers. So there's and the iron workers. So there's a whole lot of work that could be done in that infrastructure, bill.
Yeah, it sounds like Eric Cantor needs a history lesson here. Maybe we should send him a book on FDR. Say, hey, it happened before. We can do it again.
Yeah, and if you read that book, and there is a book, and it's a book, quite honestly, that I sent to the White House, dog-eared the pages, and I did that, during the first day that both Obama and Biden were elected, and it's called. It's the history of the building trades, and it basically outlines the whole thing that we're in today.
I wonder if they read it.
I hope so.
All right, Jimmy, I will wrap it up there. Thank you so much for what you do for the painters and allied trades and for all of America. I'm telling you. I mean, you're speaking the truth. You're speaking from the heart. I just wish some of these members of Congress would listen,
Well, I think we've taken a position that, we're going to tell them exactly like it is. They might not like it. It's like your kids. You always want to tell your kids, hey, yes, 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 but sometimes you got to say no.
You got it.
So,
all right, Jimmy.
Thanks, Flash.
You take care. We'll talk to you next month, buddy.
You got it. Bye-bye.
All right, Jimmy Williams, General President of Painters and Allied Trades, IUPAT.org is the website.